she's also the help, because every single scene she's in, she's doing something while all the other nuns watch her doing that thing.
That's what being a novice is all about.
She hasn't leveled up yet, so she's stuck doing all the work.
Hey, Maniacs!
Hey, Maniacs!
Midsomer Maniacs is a comedy repack podcast dedicated to the ITV series Midsomer Murders. Each week, we dig into the episode of a show, including the murders, the mayhem, the loonies, and everything else we love.
You know what else we love? I'm
what?
Sarah. You know what else we love?
What else do we love?
Lovejoy.
Ooh.
Lovejoy.
Who can't love Lovejoy? Everybody loves Lovejoy.
Yes.
Two of the ladies from Lovejoy, actually.
Woo!
We have Em and Pol.
Hi.
We're so excited to have you guys today.
We're very overexcited to be here. You might have to edit this one more than usual.
Yeah, sorry.
Because we get to talk about season 14, episode 7, A Sacred Trust.
Or as I call it, nuns!
Nuns.
There are a lot of nuns. Well, actually, there are not a lot of nuns.
There's only 5
That's the
nuns.
point. Yeah.
Nuns,
Not
but
enough
not
nuns.
a lot of nuns.
Although actually they do conclude there are enough nuns, don't they? That's technically enough nuns.
But you only need 2.
Only need 2 nuns. So we have multiple, nuns.
But I don't think Jones counts.
We have more nuns we have more nuns at the start than we have at the end as well.
That's true.
Unless Jones does count. I mean, no, but even then. Anyway,
Even then,
I'm
we're
rushing
down.
ahead.
We're down net 1 nun.
The number of nuns. Because Mother Jerome might be going to prison for blackmail. Now, I don't think she
I hope
will.
not.
Blackmailed a scumbucket, but
Not Mother Jerome.
no.
Mother
The other-
Julian.
I kept getting them mixed up. I thought, why have you named them both after saints beginning with J? There aren't even that many saints beginning with J. You picked the 2 of them and you named yourselves after them just to confuse me.
You can say wheelchair nun and blackmail nun.
Well, wheelchair nun, I just called horrible grandma all the way through in my notes. Because she was played by Rosalind Knight, I think, is it? Rosalind Knight,
Yes.
who plays horrible grandma in Friday Night Dinner. I don't know if you have that in the States, but everyone ought to watch it. It is my favorite comedy show in the world, and it's filmed at like the end of my road. Our pub is in it as the horrible pub.
Nice. No, we don't get that show.
Oh, if it ever comes,
Here's the
you have
shows
a
we
look.
do and don't get. It's definitely strange what we do and don't get.
It's worth a watch.
Somehow, sometimes you get shows like for years that we're waiting on. So
If you ever get Friday Night Dinner, do watch it. It's just about a Jewish family in North London, but it is fabulously good. Sorry, that was a big aside.
Yeah, how did we get onto that?
Because Rosalind Knight plays horrible grandma in Friday Night Dinner, and she plays Sister J, one or the other of them, in this wheelchair nun.
yes.
Yeah, so we've got 4 nuns. We've got Sister Jerome, who's in charge. No, Sister Julian. I just did it again. Julian, who's in charge. Sister Jerome, who's in the wheelchair. She's the oldest. Then we have a Sister Thomas, or Mother Thomas. They go back and forth between sister and mother, who gets killed.
Yes.
And then we have Sister Catherine, the novitiate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which means young
She's
nun.
a starter nun.
Think Sister Act.
No,
She's the one with the
no,
amazing voice in Sister Act, the little shy
Yes.
one.
Yes. She's also the help, because every single scene she's in, she's doing something while all the other nuns watch her doing that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what being a novice is all about.
She hasn't leveled up yet, so she's stuck doing all the work.
So the cold open starts with some hanky-panky going on
Oh, yeah, it does.
outside.
Yeah, in
How-
the Dingley Dell.
In the Dingley Dell.
I want, so when the boys go over the wall to go break up the window, they all go over the wall. When the scumbag warlord goes over the wall to kill the nun, so the only way into this place is over the wall. Do you see that young lady going over the wall?
I would have climbed over a wall to
I
get into a
have
Dingley
climbed over a
Dell.
wall. I have climbed over a wall in a priory. This is going to be very
Oh,
confessional.
wow.
To
episode.
go make out with a boy?
No, but because I was staying in the priory and we went to the pub. We were on a silent retreat, so we went out of the ground so we could talk. We went to the pub and we came back after they'd shut the doors. So I climbed over
So
the
you
wall.
had to climb back in. Wow.
Paul, I don't know you that well, but I cannot imagine you on a silent retreat.
Well, I I've been on 2 silent retreats. I did not, however, stay silent for most of them. I left the grounds and you were allowed to talk. But that's why I've written all sorts about them being silent or not in this.
I don't think I could even do it for a day. Never mind multiple days.
No, it was only 2 days. It was a weekend. So we got there on Friday night. And then we were allowed to talk after the Sunday service at Sunday lunch. And we had wine with our Sunday lunch. It was a very odd experience. And one nun read to all the other nuns because they all had to be silent over dinner, over meals and stuff. So one nun would read from a meaningful text and they would all sit and sort of look wise and no one spoke. And you could hear every clink, every chewing. It was really uncomfortable. It was so odd.
I can only imagine. Well, luckily in this episode, they have a table set for like 21. There's only 3 of them at it.
In the refectory.
Yes. Refectory.
There's only 2 R's in it. Refectory. I always want to put an R in the middle of it.
It should be refractory, like refraction.
Yeah, but it's refectory.
So this young couple is suddenly interrupted by sudden nun.
Creepy black amorphous nun. I think I would scream too.
Is that the Shadow Man or something? What's he called? Slender Man. That's suddenly just
Slender
this
Man.
dark hooded
Slender
figure.
nun.
Slender nun.
Slender Nun. Is that your title? Slender Nun.
Yeah, I think we might have a title right there.
And she steals his trousers.
Yeah,
I
which
think it
ends
right.
up being important, but I didn't figure it at all. I tell you what, the reason I knew that I'd seen this episode when it aired in the UK, which was in 2011, was because the boy in the Dingley Dell with the girl getting it on looked exactly like a boy that I went to college with, had a huge crush on, who is an actor, quite a good stage actor. He lives in LA now and had been in some like BBC ITV dramas and stuff. And back in 2011, I thought, oh my God, it's him. Watched nearly all the program thinking it was him, and then realised, because of something one of the characters says later on, of course it couldn't bloody well be him, because it was about 20 years after we'd all been at college. So he wouldn't look like a 17-year-old boy. But yeah, I actually thought these were GCSE kids I've written, which is like 15 to 16-year-olds, but they weren't. They were older than that.
I went into peak Lovejoy mode at the very beginning and just wrote immediate peril music, and then I wrote, but no peril. I was quite disappointed. There was an immediate loss of peril.
And apparel.
Yes.
So Duncan sneaks home and his parents are watching some horrible television show. I couldn't figure out what they were watching or listening to, but it's some horrible television show. And then I was like, oh, he has a Gorillaz poster. Maybe he's okay. No,
he's a little shit.
Oh,
No.
all the way through.
He was so dislikable. He was just so vile.
If I had a kid who acted like that, it would be really hard not to throttle him. I'm not going to hit him, but I might shake him a lot.
He was just so objectionable and so entitled and and actually not unrealistic. I've met people like that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he just got his driver's license a month ago and he already has a BMW convertible.
Yeah. That's also what you need to know, really,
I was at uni I went to a university that, had a lot of people like this, doesn't it, Em?
But then he and his friends come back to shatter the windows. And they have those awesome masks on. I love those masks.
Yeah.
So there's 5 of them. And there's Charles is one of them for sure. And the Queen is one of them for sure. And we think Ronald Reagan's probably one of them.
And Sean Connery.
Sean Connery's one, yes.
And then there's one that is black. And I don't know who it's supposed to be.
I did not pay this much attention.
My notes just the Queen. I
noticed
noticed the Queen. I did notice the Queen. I don't think I made a note of anyone else.
Well, I felt like I noticed Tony Blair, but maybe I didn't. Maybe that was Ronald Reagan.
Or maybe the one we think is Sean Connery was Tony Blair.
I was very proud of myself, though, that I did write who is the strange woman in a red hat ringing the bell. Because, of course, that did turn out, it was, what do you call it? Chekhov's woman in a red hat doesn't have the same name, does it? But,
Well, yes, but if you pay any sort of attention to this episode, there's no mystery here because as soon as you see the house again from the outside, you're like, oh, that's the house.
That's the one, yeah.
That's where she went.
Yeah.
Whoever she was. So those windows that they shatter, they say they're Burne Jones.
I went to a Burne Jones exhibition at the at Tate Britain about 2 years ago. It was lovely. that
I realized
can't
looking
remember a
into
thing
him
about
that I got him confused with Dante and Gabrielle Rossetti a lot. Because they're both pre-Raphaelites,
Yeah.
right? Draping all their girlfriends in togas and stuff. Only dating girls with long red hair and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So they find the damage the next day, and Jones is on the case. Jones is such a good cop in this
He
episode.
is actually.
it. Yeah, I love him.
I also love some of their exchanges all through the episode.
Sister Jerome has the little door and she's like, go away. Clank.
Yeah,
That was very
no
believable.
police. All cops are bad.
I
Slam.
like the fact that they've set her up right from the start. I just thought, yep, she is a nun. And she was horrible, really dislikable, pompous, arrogant, like secretive, convinced she's right. Oh, we're going to go and pray about, I don't mean to say, but okay, I was taught by nuns. I've got a lot of angst to get out of my system in this episode. And I really, really disliked her. And I was quite pleased at how well they did at making me really dislike her.
She strikes me as very fearful.
Yeah. But there's two types of nuns. There's this type, there's that type of nun. There's this sort of, so like Sister Brid, who used to be on the door of the Catholic chaplaincy and used to go in and she would go, what do you want? What are you doing here? And you'd go, I want to go to church. Oh, right. No, that's fine. Go to mass. That's fine. And she would just interrogate you when you went in. So there was that sort of nun, generally little bony nuns. And then there were these sort of big jolly nuns like the one in Sister Act, the really cheerful one in Sister Act. There's no average nun. There's no nun about whom I feel neutral.
No neutral nuns.
No neutral nuns.
No neutral nuns.
And they're bickering about the window. The nuns are bickering. A Burne Jones. Only 4 nuns I've written.
Yes. So they have a giant church.
Mm-hmm.
They have a refectory. They have a garden that could be on television.
Yeah.
Plus a dingley dell.
Yeah.
Plus a chicken coop. This
and
is
their dormitory, their house, whatever. I mean, yeah, there's like 5 buildings there within that wall.
Estate is worth tens of millions of dollars.
And they don't even seem to use it for other things. So the place that I've been to a couple of times, I think they kind of took little groups in to make some money because they were a much smaller community than they used to be 100 years before. And this lot are not. They're just sort of sitting, seething in this kind of pile of this expensive pile of real estate.
Like, use the church to have weddings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you have to understand. So there's kind of like, there's lots of different groups of nuns. Of course, they have slightly different flavors or whatever, but there's basically 2 camps. There are the nuns like these that are closed up and separated from the world. And then there are the nuns who do things like run missions in schools and interact with people. And the nuns like these who are supposed to be closed off and isolated, their job is to pray.
Yeah.
That's what they're supposed to do, is pray all the time. And they get a list of people to pray for from whatever man is above them. And they're like little prayer machines. They're just like a bank.
Churning out the prayer.
Yeah, that's what they're supposed to be doing. So they have to be isolated from everybody to do that.
Yeah, but you think they'd let other people come in and do a bit of the praying? That's what we used to do. We would rock
Or
up
do
and
other
pray
things
with
while
them.
they're praying.
Yeah, do the garden for them. Have a bit of a kind of cleanse of the soul. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, they have the debate about whether to sell the silver or not. And I actually thought in my notes I have, should Lovejoy not suddenly appear here?
Yeah, I kept expecting him
Lovejoy.
to. And then thinking, no, this isn't Lovejoy, Polly. You're not watching Lovejoy. You're watching.
Yeah.
You have silver to sell?
He doesn't have to rescue the nuns who can no longer afford their refectory. They can afford it, so they don't need Lovejoy. They don't need to be saved.
The guy that shows up, Peter de Winter, at first I was like, that can't be John Gielgud, but it's like low rent John Gielgud.
His name's Philip Anthony, and he's been in the Lovejoy.
Oh, I bet.
That's John Gielgud, incidentally.
Season 3, episode 8.
John Gielgud has also been in a Lovejoy.
Yeah.
And he was lovely in it.
Of course he was.
But De Winter is typical antiques dealer. He's got a bow tie and,
Yes.
Oh,
yes. He's a
I've written,
type.
a man arrives with a briefcase. The music suggests villainy. I don't think it was villainy. It was
I
just
don't use the
peril.
word villainy. It's a good word.
Also, my notes started off really detailed because then I've written, a nun lets him in. I'm like, I can't keep writing down every single thing that happens in this episode. It's 2 hours
I
long.
filled up like about half a book over this.
Yeah.
So Mother Julian goes to the hen house. You don't feed, I hate to play farm boy here, but you don't feed chickens at night.
She's not feeding them. She's closing them
She
in.
was
She's
like
shutting them in, isn't
shooing
she?
them in. She was doing the chicken shooing action.
She's trying to get all the hens
Nobody
into the hen house so she can close the door rather than them being loose in that pen.
There was
I
just a
get-
fox running around, and I understand that the fox was a metaphor, but still, wouldn't she have shooed the fox away anyway?
Then she gets it.
Yeah. No,
So,
putting away
he's
chickens,
wrangled.
murdered.
Okay. Now, so we go spoiler open, right?
We assume
So,
people have
We assume
recently
people
watched the
watched it.
episode. Yeah, so we're not ruining it. Yeah.
and for a show that's been out for almost 10 years, it's okay. So this warlord who kills her by strangling her. Okay. Red-haired beret nun goes to his house, tries to blackmail him. He comes back the next night, goes over the fence, and is going to kill her. Now, he is a hired mercenary,
Yeah,
right?
he's a professional.
Why does he not put a bullet in her brain or slit her throat? Like,
That's a good point.
most difficult thing he can do.
Yeah. I
Maybe
it-
because he figures she's a feeble old woman and it won't take a lot of effort. And
and he
it
wants to
doesn't.
hide a weapon.
I would
Yeah.
still think that like a mercenary like him would come with for sure's, not kindas.
But
Yeah.
that's probably true though, Em. So that there's no weapon anywhere. There's no prints or there's no. And maybe he's also just a massive egotist. There's like, oh, I can totally just take this old woman with my bare
Yeah, maybe
hands.
it's personal.
I mean,
it's
he is a
personal for
pompous
him.
little twat, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. So
Wouldn't he do the head twisty, neck breaky thing?
Ah,
Yeah,
you
like
know the other thing. It's a metaphor because that's how you would kill a chicken, and I know that because one of my sister-in-law's chickens got kind of ravaged, not in the not in that sense, got badly hurt by a fox. So we decided we had to,
that's so
do
sad.
away with it, and we both bottled out. So she rang her dad. My sister-in-law rang my father-in-law and was like, are you sober enough to drive? Could you come over and kill a chicken? So he came over and he rang this chicken's neck in this box. And we were like, and as it died, this shot of feathers went up and it did this like big death kind of like death rattle thing.
No.
But because he was holding the body in this bucket, all we could see was these feathers whiz into the air like something out of a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Oh, well,
That
that's
never
good
happens
now.
on TV. They just go snap and it's done.
Yeah, well,
No.
perhaps he just didn't do it very well. There was chicken
No.
everywhere.
No, that's how it happens.
Yeah.
Farm boy, once again.
It was very disconcerting. We had to drink a whole bottle of wine just to recover.
I was vegetarian for 11 years for a reason.
Yeah.
Oh.
So of course, as soon as Kate comes to see the body, she knows she's been strangled because she's got petechiae.
Yes, and I loved this. I was like, surely anybody who watches Midsomer Murders must know the word petechiae the same way that people who watch Casualty know what tachycardia is.
Yes.
Yeah, he's tachycardic. Okay, but do they say it often? I don't know. I can't really remember. And then I was like, is this how I know this word? But I think I know it from listening to too many true crime podcasts.
Yeah, I think that's how I know it too, is by watching way too many
Yeah, I did not know
British
the
murder
word.
mysteries.
This was a whole new world for me.
Yeah. So I knew what they were, but I'd never really thought about why they are the telltale sign of being strangled,
Ooh,
you know?
horrible.
So petechiae are these like busted blood vessels. And when you're strangled, they're usually on your face and especially in your eyes, right? And apparently what happens is that, and they only happen above where you're strangled. So the veins are not constricted because they're deeper inside your body, or the arteries are deeper inside your body, but the veins are. So the blood keeps going, but can't get back. So it kind of backs up in these little veins and capillaries and they explode.
Oh,
Although
and
you
that's why it
spoke of
happens.
Not a fun time. This is not a fun time.
no.
It happens when you have a tourniquet too.
Like,
So
yeah,
somebody
it
puts a
wouldn't-
tourniquet on your
Yeah.
arm and they leave it too
Oh, yeah,
long, you
then
can
it
get
goes,
them
yeah.
above, right above where the tourniquet is. I didn't know that. That's why he didn't just slit her throat, because then we wouldn't have those interesting things, Mark.
See, this is educational program, this is. I like to learn.
Funnily enough, underneath this bit I've written, is a nun's job praying? Which we've just answered. So clearly it was indicated within this that a nun's job is praying.
It depends on the nun.
I did enjoy that Jones, when they say that they're going to pray, Jones curses and he goes, Christ.
There were some brilliant little snippets and bits, little asides and bits of conversation between throwaway comments between the two of them that were just amazing. I'm hoping I've written some of them down rather than just gone and actually was enjoying them too much to write them down. But later on,
because there are all those moments where it's like, no, this is a murder investigation, and the nuns are like, nope, time to pray, and they just spin and walk away. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Or when Barnaby says, maybe we should set up an incident room here. She's like, okay, but you'll have to be quiet from this hour to this hour and this hour to this hour.
I wrote down the hours from 10 till 12, then 2 till 5, and then 9 till 6. So your incident room will have to be silent. I also thought, do you have to put an incident room there?
Probably helps to have it on site.
Well, and also later on, he's like, I called you 3 times, even during the non-quiet hour.
That was brilliant. That was very funny.
And I was delighted to see John Barnaby, because I haven't sort of sat down and watched Midsomer properly since I was really into it, probably around this time, because I really like Neil Tutchin. I think
I do actually.
I really liked him in that thing with Diana Rigg, the Mrs. Bradley mysteries, where he's the chef.
He was very
good in that.
I love him in that.
Those Mrs. Bradley murders is one of those shows where you're like, why are there not 10 seasons of this show?
It's so good.
Because it would have been excellent.
So Duncan is a jerk. His dad is a jerk. And now we get Father Behan, who is also a jerk. And the messiest priest I have ever seen.
But he's just
like, to me, a priest is Father Brown, and they have somebody who comes and does.
A Mrs. Doyle. Everyone should have a Mrs. Doyle. Where is this Mrs. Doyle? He probably just patronised her out of a job. She probably just went, you know what, screw this. Because he is just, and again, there's 2 types of priests. They're the pompous ones who are very much like, well, I know my scripture and I can tell you why you're wrong. And then there are the gentle ones who are in it because they actually like people and kind of want to. And again, it's Em's sniggering.
Sorry. I can't cut that bit out of me sniggering.
Em and I know a lot of, we sort of collect Anglican ministers, don't we, rather than Catholic priests, but.
Yeah.
So,
where do you keep them?
in the wardrobe. No. Okay. One of them is now a bishop.
We have a technical question here. He says, I wasn't going to set up a lap dancing club. Now, they're not called lap dancing clubs here. They're called strip clubs. Are they called lap dancing clubs in England?
We try to pretend they're not strip clubs.
Call them a strip club.
Or do they call them gentlemen's clubs? Or
they call them Spearmint Rhino, or what's the other one?
Well, I mean, Spearmint Rhino would call it that. Spearmint Rhino would call itself a gentleman's club.
A gentleman's club, yeah.
I think it would call itself a gentleman's club.
Which is confusing, because there are gentlemen's clubs that are not that at all. Because the Carlton Club's a gentleman's club as well.
Yeah, like the Athenaeum is not a strip club. It's a gentleman's club.
Like, I was wondering if they intentionally made him sound unaware of what to call those things.
Or is he trying to be kind of risque and modern? He's awfully kissy for a priest.
He's only kissing with one person, and those 2 are way too close.
I say he's awfully kissy, but
with Duncan's mum,
with the wrong person, and well, frankly, though, he's not massively attractive either. He's obnoxious and horrible. I mean, they're welcome to each other. Really. I wasn't impressed by very many people in this episode, I must say. I was like, nope.
You like Jones, you like Barnaby, and everybody else?
I quite like the nun in a wheelchair, even though when she has that first conversation when they're investigating and she sat by the window talking about her garden, and she manages to make it sound really sinister somehow. I did that garden, it's my garden.
Yeah.
And you think, why is
and then she pretends to be, doolally.
Yeah, even though she's obviously not. Obviously.
Yeah, she can even walk.
Yes.
Catherine has to push her ass around all the time, and she can walk.
It's part of Catherine's training.
I was convinced it was her, like, for at least 20 minutes. I was like, look, she can get up, she can walk, she could have done it.
I assumed it wouldn't be for that reason, because it was too obvious. I've watched enough Agatha Christie to know that it's never the obvious.
I can only imagine what the episode would be like if it was Mother Jerome the whole time.
Yeah.
It would be really different.
The
killer is inside the Priory.
I did assume, I must admit, until he then got his comeuppance, I assumed it was the priest. And then I did also think it might have been Duncan's dad, just because he was a big bloke.
I also thought it was Sister Catherine for ages. So I was completely useless, including the fact that I had already seen this episode and remembered it. So you'd think I would have remembered what happened, but no.
I thought Sister Catherine may have got someone to do it for her, but wasn't her. I thought there might be some elaborate, in cahoots thing going on.
That would be serious commitment on her part. If she went there as a novitiate and was a nun for 3 years just to have the opportunity to knock these old ladies off so that she could get her inheritance, that's commitment.
But you'd never suspect anything of somebody who'd been there 3 years, would you? So I've been here 3 years. I've been silent for 3 years, except between the hours of 12 and 2,
You just have to knock one off a year or something. Not all at once.
Barry and Katie at the pub are such non-characters that they barely get a name. And I spend the whole time looking at all the other stuff in the bar. I'm like, oh, they're talking, blah, 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 blah.
Holly, was
and I'm like looking at all the other things in the bar.
Was the guy behind the bar Minty from EastEnders?
I have no idea. I've never watched EastEnders, believe it or not.
And I love when Katie goes, she was headed to the new houses.
The rich houses.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those villages, though, isn't it? Again, with, we've been here all this time, and they comes in here with their, that's a terrible accent, I'm going to stop doing that. But, that whole sort of them and us, old village, new village.
And even though Duncan's family is super wealthy and their house is nice, it's like an arm's reach from the neighbor.
Yeah. It's actually it was a believable, they always are. This was all filmed, by the way, around Tring. It's in a very nice area if you've ever been around there. But it is a bit like that because it's basically Commuterville. So actually it has this aura of being very kind of nice, and everyone's on top of each other. Literally in the back of a priory, but with no trousers.
That's what Dingley Dell does to you.
It is.
Or, you pile on a nun in the chicken coop. It's just too crazy.
So they find out by looking in the safe that the chased silver is gone.
Dun, dun, dun.
And of course, I'm like watching her pull the keys out of the drawer like 15 times because I want to see what is underneath the keys. And it's a tax bill from 1986.
That's commitment to a podcast.
You did that.
Okay, so this is how Mark watches Midsomer, though. Like, we don't even have to talk about our research because I know anything that's on paper, he is going to look at.
He goes to the hospital for some reason here, and I don't like that he goes to the hospital because every other time the morgue is attached to the police station. They put up signs and everything for the hospital.
It's different.
Yeah.
Because I'm a broken person, as soon as I see Father Bien walking around, I wonder, what do they wear under cassocks?
It's not like a kilt where you...
Well, it goes down to their ankles.
Bike riding.
You can wear anything, technically. Or can you, Polly? I don't know. What is the rule?
You'll have to. I think you should ask our bishop friend. I'm sure he'll spill the beans on what.
Tell us.
He'll definitely tell us. He sent me so many pictures last night of him in his various bishopy outfits. I said, "Are you going to make a calendar? If you got 12 outfits, you could just make a calendar."
Well, so I looked it up because my search history's just bad anyway. And they do wear pants underneath them, but nuns under their habits can wear all kinds of things. Like they can just have street clothes on underneath them. They can have long johns on. I'm like, why would you wear all that stuff underneath all that stuff?
Oh.
And did I ever tell you I sang in the Royal Albert Hall with no knickers on once?
No.
Sang in the Royal Albert Hall with no knickers on once. It's a long story though.
On purpose.
I think that's the most important part.
No, it was I was in a choir that sang in the proms, and we all dared one another to do it.
Oh,
and I wish it had been more recent because there would probably then be footage of later on when we were all waiting outside after waiting for our bus. We were all singing, we're not wearing underwear, and all the basses went, underwear. So we did. We all. There was like a couple of little goody two shoes kids who were like, "I'm not doing this," and all of us, because we knew it'd be a good story to like tell our grandchildren in the future. We're just this huge row of girls in these blue outfits with no knickers on underneath.
That'd be on Instagram now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
Back to the show. Sorry.
The sad part is a siren went by while you were telling that story.
So then they tell the jokes, right? How many folk singers?
Oh, this was the bit I was talking about. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Plug in a light bulb, because Barnaby asks, how many nuns does it take
to make a community?
Which is a fair
question. And then we looked up.
I don't like Jones's answer to how many folk singers does it take to change a light bulb. I found a much better one. Are you ready?
Oh, go on.
Mark's
hey,
like,
Sarah, how many folk singers does it take to change a light bulb?
12.
12?
1 to change it, 3 to lament the passing of the old, 2 to sing about the social injustice that requires change, 2 to complain that it's wrong to change it, and 4 to complain that it's electric.
Very good.
Oh, I like the last one. That's amazing.
Better than what Ben said.
You need 2 to do an album with Billy Bragg about it.
Yeah. And how many nuns does it take to change a light bulb?
Oh, go on.
None, because nuns don't use light bulbs. They can always see the light.
Oh.
Then there's a gizmo that stops. I knew Sarah and I would both get caught up on this gizmo, this fingerprint gizmo, because I'm like, it doesn't work like that.
Did you guys notice that?
No, I've just written, this is all I've written. This is all I've written. Pathology lab, strangulation takes a lot of strength. Next scene, fingerprinting nuns.
That makes it sound like the nuns are fingerprinting people.
A bit like potato printing, but it's like, you know.
I thought that when they, what were they trying to do? I thought they were meant to be fingerprinting the nuns so that they could then dust for fingerprints and then check what the nuns had touched and what other people had touched. But they had like this sort of thing that made it look like they were looking them up in a database to see if they committed a crime. At this point, I thought, oh, Catherine's going to have been a bad guy in a former life, but no.
And they only scan one of their fingers.
Yeah. Like that.
And then they instantaneously say, no match.
Yeah.
Is that like...
Which you would never show that result to anybody while you were investigating.
No.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, I didn't do it then.
It's like they got all their information about fingerprinting from, you know, when you go to immigration and you just put one finger from each hand and that's it. And then they're like, yeah, fine, that'll do. So,
yes, that's why they wrote it like that. And they were like, well, that's what happens when you go to the airport. Yeah, that's probably fine.
Yeah. So Mark was like, there's no way they only do their one fingerprint. And so because we're nerds, this is what we do. We look real close, we pause, and we look at real close.
Excellent.
The software they show on the laptop is Cogent, which is a real company that does things like biometrics.
Oh yeah.
And they sell a little square, one finger at a time fingerprinting machine, just like. So what's fake is the database, is the no match. Yeah. Because you know the Priory has really good internet access, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, they've got to do something in their 2 hours that they're allowed. I mean, maybe they're praying. Maybe they're getting prayer requests online. Maybe they are more modern than we thought.
I think they probably used the Wi-Fi from the pub because there's a big sign about the Wi-Fi in the pub. Which is the first Wi-Fi reference.
Did they have Wi-Fi in 29? I guess they did.
Does that mean they're doing what all people do and just stealing their neighbour's Wi-Fi? I love the idea that the nuns are nicking the neighbour's Wi-Fi.
Yeah. They're not allowed to have smartphones, but one of them's got a laptop underneath their bed, you know.
Just like
surfing the net.
Yeah.
See,
so I learned, I fall into these holes. So I was looking at this company's website and they're advertising this new finger liveness detection solution. So, you know, on movies, they'll cut somebody's finger off and use it to like bypass security, or they'll pluck their eyeball out and use it. So this company has come up with a way of detecting whether or not a finger is real or not.
Yeah. The fact that there's even a market for that is just really dark.
Because, you know, it could be like a latex finger or silicone, or it could be a dead finger. So one of the things that they look for is the blood flow in the finger to detect whether
that
it's
makes
real
sense,
or
I
not.
guess. Make sure it's not dead or some kind of very clever, like printed on a 3D printer.
Yeah, and
All
sweat.
those people with bad circulation, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just come in from outside and you're cold, like,
Yeah.
I'm alive, really? No.
Or you've kind of just got really bad diabetes that's starting to affect the end of your,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're out of luck. May as well get some rubber fingers. No better.
So, in a scene that can only be called "It's a Miracle She Can Walk," Catherine cuts her finger while chopping up tomatoes, and then flicks it into the tomato.
Ugh.
But you'd think nuns would be a bit more impressed. If a nun gets up and starts walking, you'd think they would go, hallelujah, it's a miracle. Not like, holy shit, she shouldn't be walking.
You're bleeding in the tomatoes, she says.
Yes. But that would make
Catherine
me get up and walk.
like flicks
Yeah.
her finger.
So,
around.
it's all right.
That's the opposite of what you should do. Stop it.
Get a bit more out there.
Ugh. It's so yucky.
So they go and interview Duncan at his house, and his mother answers the door in one outfit, and in the next scene, she's in a completely different outfit.
Is she,
When she goes
I
to see
thought his
her
mum was really
boyfriend,
dodgy.
But
Dodgy?
he's so arrogant in this scene.
Really is despicable, and he's horrible.
Yeah, but you only have to look at his parents, really, don't you?
Well, his mum's just a bit stupid. You just think his mum was just a bit dim.
Yeah.
His dad's a bully. His dad is clearly A-type. He's a bully.
Yeah.
And his mum's just thick.
Yeah.
Like if I suddenly had millions of pounds, I think Sarah might be like, "How did you get this money?"
Yes.
And if I thought one of my kids committed a crime, the last thing I would do is run across the village with a suitcase and say, "Go,
Run away, you child."
Yeah.
You
That's not gonna
17-year-old
work.
child off you. It's all right. They'll never find you on this island in your flashy car, Mr. 17-year-old. I mean, what?
Oh, no.
Stupid.
Especially since he's so smart, he goes like 3 streets over and stays at a friend's.
Yeah.
Yeah, best friends out.
Well,
I thought that
outside.
was quite cute,
Yeah.
actually. I thought that was quite funny. You just think, oh, he's just a baby. He's just a pathetic, spoiled little baby, isn't he?
And just handily, he happens to go to the school that John Barnaby's wife teaches at, so you can just ask her about him.
Oh, man, does she put the smackdown on those kids in the hallway? I'm like, she's good at her
Great.
job.
I like her. She's great. And she's right.
So I'm like looking at all the stuff in the background. So there's the science block,
Yeah.
which there was a sign for that. But it's very hard to notice, but they all congregate around this sort of nude abstract picture in the hallway, in the art hallway, which like science gets a whole block, but art gets a hallway.
Yeah.
Typical.
That figures.
And I had this whole thing in my head that they were like, "Let's meet at the Naked Lady."
Teenagers, probably true.
Of course they would. The next line of my notes says, Mother Julian digs lazy holes. Because she goes to bury her clothes in that little suitcase and she digs a hole exactly as
size
deep
of the
as the suitcase
they're
is
good at
tall.
economizing, and nuns, they're not going to waste any soil. Again, was it meant to be sinister? You got a nun digging a hole. I'm assuming that's supposed to be a little bit sinister, but
It's at
really
least not an
isn't.
effective way to hide it. When she puts the dirt back, it's going to be a mound.
Yeah.
Because she's dug it so
Oh,
shallow.
it's a very weirdly shaped mole that's just built, there's a little molehill. Sort of
Yeah,
perfectly
and now it's got a
rectangular
red
mole.
beret on.
A little mole with a, yeah.
Well, it's midsummer. It would be a badger.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is true. That is true.
What I don't understand about the Barnaby's house life is why they can't give this woman an office in her own home.
Living like a little cottage.
They've got quite a nice house.
Well,
They do. They have 2 floors and they have
Exactly.
room for a nursery next season.
They have at least
But they
2
don't have
bedrooms
a-
then.
Yeah, you'd think at this point she would have one of the bedrooms.
did we have
And,
all
and
offices
in
at
another
the-
episode, she's all spread out across the bed with all her papers and stuff.
Well, mind you, that's kind of what I'm doing. The reason I've got this in my background is because I'm actually just, if I turn it off, which I'm not going to do, I'm just behind, there's a curtain behind me, and behind that is my bed. I'm just
I've got
in
my
the
bed.
corner of I'm in the
Yes.
window of my bedroom.
So Mrs. Barnaby asked why women become nuns, and I'm like, why is Catherine a nun? And there's no real answer to that in the episode. Like, she's doing her postdoc work at Oxford and, in her free time finds God and then goes to be a nun.
People do that, though. There was a thing on Twitter today about someone's mother who, after her husband died, became a nun. And then lots of people were arguing with her on Twitter saying, well, that's not allowed. And he was saying, no, trust me, it is, because my mum was a nun. She's a thing. And
as long as they weren't divorced.
Exactly. Well, we've got our own story about that this last couple of weeks, haven't we? Because our Prime Minister's just got married in a Catholic church. Third marriage. Oh. Apparently it's absolutely fine because the previous 2 marriages were not in a Catholic church, therefore they don't count.
Oh, excellent.
I didn't know he got married.
Oh, he got married to, or as they put it on the news quiz, Boris Johnson, this is the news that Boris Johnson has married his latest fiancée. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. But I was like, yeah, so people do then become, I think, isn't there the idea that she's had this sort of potentially shining career, but just realized there's more to life?
She had an epiphany.
Yeah, and people do. A lot of people, I think most people.
It's coincidental that epiphany follows. You'll inherit this monastery.
I mean,
this is why I thought that Catherine was maybe behind everything, because it felt like not a strong enough reason.
And we don't know what order those things happened in. Did she find out she would inherit it?
And but then when she's speaking to her parents, I think you see that she is genuine, and they almost act as though she's been not groomed as such, but like, well, what's happened? How has she had this? But people do, and I think
but I think you're right to call it like grooming, because I think it would be difficult. I cannot imagine if one of my kids decided to do that, like how I would wrap my brain around it, especially since we're not devout. So if one of my kids suddenly became devout, it would almost feel like you've been brainwashed.
There was a brilliant thing. I can't remember where I learned about it, but in a lecture about the sort of cults and how we view cults, and they'd written about this cult, and they said, this cult that makes women subservient, and women have to only wear one color, and they have to cover their heads, and they have to do this, and they have to do that, and they have to, isn't this a terrible cult? And everyone went, yeah, it's a terrible cult, right? That's Catholic. It's just Catholic Church, and the word they'd used was convent backwards to say, this awful cult. And it was a really interesting little piece of psychology that anyone reading about it would go, yes, that's awful. There's this extreme religion. Yeah. And actually, is it the most common religion in the world, or one of? Certainly,
it's one of.
Yeah, most common religion. And we go back to the pub, and the drunk priest is drunk, and I'm staring at all the stuff in the background, including there's Costin ales. So one of the things they do in the production of Midsomer is, because they can't show all the taps, of course, is they have Costin ales, which are, but also they have one for Midsomer Abba's Farmhouse Cider Sweet, which is what the whole last episode is all about. So they have but they have a bigger sign that says open mic night. And I want to know who is coming to open the night.
As somebody who grew up in a very small village, I will tell you that a 14-year-old girl who's really good at poetry will go and say, no, I am 18.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I do. No, I am 18. Let me read my poems.
Open mic nights are hilarious though, because we used to have one at my local pub, and it would be sort of 6 absolutely terrible people, usually doing things like performance poetry but badly, where they thought really highly of themselves, and they were doing that poetry where they put the stresses on random words for no reason and do this with their hands, and there's a lot of that. And then you'd always get just some sort of little shy-looking person who would stand up and have the most stunning voice, or do the most amazing. You'd have like one in 7 people was not shit, and then all the other people thought they're amazing. They're great entertainment. Open mic,
and that's why you need alcohol to go along with it, right? That's what makes it bearable.
A fortune on open mic nights. So we'll just line them up.
When they go see the bishop to talk to him about the situation, he has the most elegant little picnic case.
Yes,
his little picnic case.
It was beautiful.
I would pack my lunch if I had one of those.
I like the bishop. I thought he was very bishopy. It was very believable.
And he washed his little cup out and put it back in.
Yeah, he was very sweet.
And the bishop didn't like the chaplain, did he? He said he was a bit of a meddler and he wasn't very clever.
He basically said he was a bit dim. Yeah. Which is probably why he's having an affair with, what's her name? Because we've already said she's a bit dim.
Possibly.
Yeah, because you don't put the rock star priest in Midsomer.
That was a little bit mean in Midsomer, but it's fair enough.
Then they do this thing that they do in Midsomer where they don't have enough characters. because there's a situation where you're like, okay, it's obviously this guy, but we have to introduce some red herrings.
Yes.
And have this dinner date between the Hendreds and the Flemings who never show up again.
Yeah. I was like, what was the point of them? We already knew that the Hendreds were kind of rich. So we knew that already. So, and we knew that the dad was a bit of a git, although he was extra weirdly gitty in this.
He was.
Dinner.
Creepy.
Well, and then they have a scene in their car. And I was like, you paid these people for 2 scenes?
Well, I think they were trying to make some kind of point about his willingness to give to charity, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But if you got to put up with an asshole, do you really want the money? I love that woman. She's like, okay, one more dinner, and then you got to get the money out of him fast because I cannot put up with him anymore. I don't like those social awkward situations. They make me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When I watch them, I'm like, oh, it's so cringy. It's so, ugh, stop.
That's just life in Britain. You get that that's just our daily life, right?
And the priest kind of comes all the way across the room and kisses her.
Oh,
it was like,
that was so awkward. But again, it's totally believable because in the UK, we not so much that she's having, doing whatever it is with the priest, but that awkward kind of, oh, look, it's so-and-so. Yeah, so we'll just sit here and everyone's too polite. I mean, the number of times that I've been out with people that I think they probably don't want to be out with me. I don't want to be out with them. We're both too polite to say so. We both keep asking one another, oh, let's meet up for a pizza or whatever. Not you guys, but I've got those friends that you meet about every 6 months. And you can tell that one or other of us has thought, oh, I better ask so-and-so out. I haven't seen her for a while. I'm a shit
I
friend.
wonder how many of those relationships are going to be ended because of the pandemic.
COVID. It's been great.
It has. I have. My friendship pool has diminished. It's kind of gone down because I had a lot of friends, and they probably felt the same about me, as I say. But in Britain, you can't sort of go about it in any different way. You need a massive, global catastrophe to do the work for you.
Oh, your friendship.
Yeah, now
just to make sure that all of your acquaintances fully atrophy.
Yeah, now I've basically got Em and Helen.
So it exceeds the awkwardness threshold. If you were to see them again, you're safe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now I haven't seen them in a year, so it's cool.
We're all like,
I can pretend I don't know them anymore.
Off the hook.
Meanwhile, we spot one of our friends in the audience at QI, and we called him.
Oh, that's so
because we watch TV too closely, I guess. We picked him out of an audience. We're just broken. This whole plot with Hendred being in Africa, I couldn't tell if the writers thought we were supposed to be able to figure that out just because there were some African masks on the wall in his house.
My dad's got a load of African masks on the wall in his house, although to be fair, my dad also did work in during apartheid Africa.
Was he a mercenary? Because apparently mercenaries have a lot of tchotchkes.
It did make me kind of go, uh-oh, that looks like my dad's house. But yeah,
maybe there are nuns knocking on our door and I don't know about it.
I don't think they put enough suggestions. I mean, and you did, because you had that moment in the church, didn't you, where she kind of had a bit of a funny turn and somebody had mentioned
she
her being a missionary.
Yeah, she said, oh, I was a missionary, and then she just didn't want to talk about it. So,
but that's what she did all the time anyway.
Yeah,
time to pray. Bye.
I guess you are supposed to probably connect that to the fact that he has this African stuff. But to be honest, I saw that and just thought it's another sign of this sort of pompous
middle class
misappropriating things because he thinks it makes him look interesting.
You know what I mean? It's not unusual to see it in a middle class.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me.
It's not weird.
Like, we didn't get all the clues, even though we're still going, oh, it's him.
Yeah.
Well, it was at this point that I remembered that I'd definitely seen it before in 2011, because she, Mother Julia, is remembering her time in Africa and remembering that she knew that's not really the right word, that Duncan's dad committed atrocities while they were both in the same place. And so when she saw Duncan, she immediately put 2 and 2 together and was like,
that was a bit of a long shot.
It couldn't be him because he was obviously going to be 30, 40 years older or whatever.
See, I didn't really buy that at that point.
Okay, there are 7 billion people in the world.
Yeah, and also,
like I say,
thousands of kilometers between things.
Yeah.
This guy ends up 20 feet from her door. This is like.
But is the implication they're both sort of from that area, and actually Africa was the coincidence rather? Do you know what I mean? Like they're both from counties, Hertfordshire, or whatever it's supposed to be. This sort of
But it works in reverse.
I mean, it's unlikely.
All I know is when I find kids illicitly making out in the backyard, the first thing I think of is, do I recognize you?
Yeah.
Do you look like your parents?
Stand over them while he's got presumably going with his mouth open.
Yeah. Trousers on.
Oh, I'm sure I know his dad. I'm going to nick his trousers just in case. Not.
She's got a whole collection of trousers.
Yeah, she's just been waiting for years. She's just been nicking trousers willy-nilly in the hope
someday
that
I will find
they're going to be his trousers. And there'll be something in the pocket that will tell her, or he'll have his name like sewn into the back because he goes to a private school. And
my dad is an African warlord.
Yeah,
yes,
he's got a little note in case.
My dad went to Africa, and all I got was
whosoever should find these trousers. I am the son of an African, mercenary or whatever.
mercenary.
Yeah, mercenary.
Yeah, I like Em's idea. My dad was a mercenary, and all I got was these stupid trousers. I like that. I don't even know how Matthew is supposed to recognize that she's a nun when she comes to see him.
Yeah.
Because she must have changed a bit, unless she was a really, frankly, she'd aged young and wasn't she can't look the same.
She wasn't dressed as a nun when she was a missionary, and she wasn't dressed as a nun when she went to his house. So how does he know to go to the Priory to kill her?
And the woman who plays her looks nothing like her. So how would he know? The woman who plays the young version of her. Yeah, so many
never mind
holes.
the fact that they're like, okay, we have to do an African scene. Where can we film that in England? A quarry.
Some random quarry.
All of Africa is a desert.
All of Africa is just this dusty, stony.
Just turn the brightness up real high so it looks like the sun is just pelting down.
And we don't have to build any buildings. We'll just put up tin shacks because everybody in Africa
we won't have
is
to
poor.
buy any. We won't have to buy any costumes because we'll just have them not wear many clothes. Because again, hot, poor.
Yeah.
It's bad, really, isn't it?
Just horrendous. Did you notice the creepy picture of the Pope in her office?
Oh, I put that because also it dated it because it was Pope Benedict and not Pope Francis, and
He's
I like Pope
looking
Francis.
into the camera.
Yeah,
it's so creepy, that picture.
but he always, I have to say, he was not blessed with a good face for pictures, was he, Pope Benedict?
Not
He
photogenic.
He was not. Whereas the current one looks a bit like Jim Bowen. Em, don't you think he looks a bit like Jim Bowen?
A bit like Jim
He
Bowen.
really does. Next time you see Jim Bowen, because I just can't look at Pope Francis for that. I think so. Do you guys know who Jim Bowen is? You won't, because it's a very niche reference. He's this sweet little northern man who used to be a headmaster, didn't he, in Clitheroe? He's this little northern man who used to present this awful budgety TV show called Bullseye.
Bullseye was very good.
Is that the darts game show?
Yeah.
Where they always won a speedboat, even though they lived in Coventry. It was that kind of.
Well, there was a serial killer who was on that show.
Yeah,
and that's how they found him out.
The Pembrokeshire killer.
Oh,
Yep.
And it all comes around.
The murder.
And that reference was more appropriate than I realised. There you go. Jim Bowen, aka Pope Francis.
So the priest is killed, and he does a pretty good dead body here.
Yes, yeah, he does actually.
I'll say he doesn't, but he's got a tough job. Like his eyes move, his mouth is different, and each time the camera goes to him. But I don't think I could do it.
I definitely couldn't do it. I always think that's the hardest thing. Wouldn't you get this? It's like I had an MRI once, and I'd never have I had this urge while lying down to but all I wanted to do inside this MRI was move. I just got this
as soon as they tell you
urge to move, and I'm pinned down.
Well, there's an episode called Electric Vendetta, which I know you guys have made reference to, where there is a guy naked on a gurney, full body, with his eyes wide open, butt hanging out, and he is the greatest dead body ever.
Yes, if there were Oscars for dead body acting.
He is not even credited. There's no credit for him. And we nominated him for an honorary BAFTA because we thought that he should win the dead body BAFTA.
It's a special skill. I reckon there should be somewhere. I bet there is. I bet somewhere in some award set there is a dead body of the year. Like there's a bad sex award.
Yeah, it's a skill. It's got to be a skill. And So Mother Julian, correct me if I'm wrong, the way that I understand it is she forces Barnaby and Jones's hand by putting herself in danger by calling Matthew and saying, we're going to meet in the morning and you're going to give me this money. So she knows he's going to come kill her. So they have to go and do something.
But
right?
I felt that she possibly, because she is a nun, that she would have sacrificed herself for the cause, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know. You see her in a different, you see her as this incredibly gritty, brave woman once you know her background and actually what she's done. And I know this sounds awful and judgmental about nuns, but when you see what she's done in Africa and that, you think, oh, this is actually somebody who's really kind of done her bit. So she knows she knows how awful the world is, which is why she's now kind of taken this other path to try and fix the world, because arguably there was it didn't work trying to do practical things. So she's going for the, I don't know, you could write essays about it. I thought it was actually really made you understand. Whereas Catherine, not dissing academics, I know, Em, you love academics, and I know you guys are academics, and I'm about to start a PhD, etc., but the woman who's sort of been in, she the implication is Catherine has not been out in the world to judge the world and then decide that she wishes to withdraw from it. She just wants to withdraw from it even more than being an academic.
Yeah, I think that's her mother's problem with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all I've written down is I would not fit into clothes I had 5 years ago, let alone 10. That really concerned me. I was like, how has she got into those bloody clothes?
And it's like 30 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so depressing. I can't fit
again, that was uncomfortable undressing.
The wimple. I don't want to see anybody in just a wimple. That's just, that's wrong. It's like naked, but with a bike helmet. Like,
so
it needs more clothing.
Before we get to the climax of the Jones and the outfit scene, they go to the antique shop.
Oh, yes,
we like this bit, didn't we?
That antique shop is a real place. It's in Henley.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I've been to Henley.
It's called Tudor House. And it's funny because Sarah, when we were watching it last night, Sarah goes, they would never have those copper pots out in front of the store like that. And I said, actually, they do.
Because they look like you could just pick one up and walk away with it.
Because, of course, I found it on Google Maps to make sure it was the right place and did Street View.
Excellent. Too. I love Henley. Have you ever been to Henley? When you come on your grand tour, Henley's lovely. Henley's very nice.
Well, and it's such a stereotypical antique shop with the sign that says 4 more rooms that way, because it's like a warren of
I love those shops.
Rickety staircases and duck under that door, and then there's another space.
They totally missed the chance to have, somebody in a Raiders jacket and long flowing black hair.
It would have been the best cameo, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
They could have easily had Tinker play that role.
They could have had just in the background, just walking past, looking at like a Queen Anne coffee pot, quizzically in the background. That would have been the most amazing mashup ever, wouldn't it? Didn't think of it.
But ITV and BBC, see, never the twain.
Well, that's the thing. They'd never be in cahoots, would they?
Never the twain.
Can't believe it.
So she explains to Barnaby all the stuff that she did. We have the flashback to the
quarry.
The quarry. The dirt pit.
Committed terrible atrocities in this quarry in Surrey.
I think Mother Julian does what she does because of the way Barnaby responds. He says, I know he's guilty, but I don't have enough evidence, but we'll get there eventually. And she's thinking, no, I want justice now.
Exactly.
Not when you get around to it.
And maybe
he's slimy. He's going to get away.
And maybe she fears for her life, actually, because maybe she's, you know what? He's going to realize he's basically killed the wrong nun. That's not a phrase you get to use very often. I mean, this is why you shouldn't try and kill a nun, because they all just look like penguins. It's ridiculous. Yep. But, maybe she's thinking, well, what have I got to lose? He's going to come for me or he's going to run away. Either way, this is not going to end well. So let's just, let's take a risk.
So she sets it up and says, basically, he's going to come kill me tonight. You better do something.
It's a bit mean, isn't it, really?
She forces their hand.
Jones in a penguin suit.
Yeah.
So we, of course, knew this was coming.
I love when they get Matthew up and they handcuff him. He's like, who trained her? She's like, ninja nun.
Because I thought it actually was her. And I was a bit disappointed because I thought, I would have loved for her to be a secret ninja nun. That would have been better. That would have been girl power in the extreme, wouldn't it?
Yeah. You're right, because I thought it was Catherine, and they just put a younger nun in, one that was more kind of feisty or whatever.
No, old nuns are much scarier. No,
Yeah.
I can totally buy a karate chopping nun.
Mm.
And I am a broken person because I'm like, if you move the fence like that, the chickens are going to get out.
Yes, replace their chickens.
They were all in the pen. They were all closed in the house.
You have to grow up on a farm to realize that you constantly worry that animals are going to get out.
I love if the whole thing had failed all at the last minute just because she went, oh, hang on, the chickens have got out and he's going to strangle her as she runs off to get them. I mean, that would be, no, wait, I'm trying to, anyway.
I do like a nice excuse to see a bloke dressed up in some mad ecclesiastical.
Again, this was very Lovejoy, wasn't it? Dress up.
Often Lovejoy will randomly dress
Yeah,
up as a
is
priest.
very dressed up.
Yeah,
and,
I like that.
takes a picture of him with his 16-year-old flip phone.
I love that it was him dressed as the nun, given that he was the one who basically found the whole thing utterly ridiculous. Found, he didn't even try to understand nunning. He was just not having it.
Nunning. It's a verb.
Yeah, I don't nun.
I was just at home nunning the other night. I don't know.
Nunning around.
This is another great Midsummer that just ends.
Well, it had the camera phone. I liked that bit.
That was good. That was very funny.
That felt very nostalgic. Although I'm sure I got myself an iPhone for my 30th birthday, which was the year before this, and I felt very behind the times. So why he had some sort of ancient, I don't know what he was using, but it looked really old. Maybe I'm just old.
I think he's just not cutting edge techie.
Yeah.
But then, so the closing scene, Catherine has taken her vows, right? She's an official nun now. She's leveled up.
And her name out.
Yes. And her name is Athenaeus.
Yep.
They'd run out of people beginning with J by this point.
Athanasis.
Oh, did I write this down?
I mean, I didn't.
It wasn't Aloysius, was it?
No,
it's Athanaeus.
Athenaeus
Athanaeus.
Aloysius, I always remember because it was the teddy bear in Brideshead Revisited.
Oh, I thought you were going to know who this is. There a Saint Aloysius?
There is a Saint Aloysius. There is a Saint Aloysius church on that road opposite Evershot Street.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Saint Aloysius is the patron saint of whatever, but she's not Aloysius.
She's not.
No,
anyway,
she's
Athanasius or Athanasius or something.
Who was at the Council of Nicaea? The saint. He goes way back, way back. But I love that they're like Jerome, Thomas, Julian, Athanasius.
The best name ever. There was a nun at this place that I went to called Sister Scholastica. Isn't that the coolest name?
I love Scholastica.
I love it. She was amazing. She was this little.
Are you sure that wasn't a heavy metal band from LA?
Should have been. She was this wonderful. It wouldn't surprise me at all if she just like quietly played, rock guitar in her spare time or something. She was this feisty little nun. She was amazing. She lived to be 100.
I'm writing it down.
Good for her.
Yeah, she was ace.
Yeah, I found Scholastica when I was looking up how nuns get their names after they become nuns. Like, do they get to pick them or are they assigned them? And I guess it just depends on the order.
Depends on the order, I think. That sounds like a weird Just So story, though. How the nun got its name. Like how the elephant got its trunk.
Well, there are some orders where the newest nun gets the name of the most recently deceased nun.
You see, that's creepy. And also, it almost suggests that they believe in reincarnation, which is totally un-nunnish.
Or that they're just too lazy to remember names.
Or there's that as well. Or you go to,
the names aren't important.
Or they're all just called Sister Mary, but they're all just different Marys. Because that's Sister Act. And there are convents, aren't there, where they're all Sister Mary. It's Sister Mary so-and-so and Sister Mary. Did you know, sorry, I've just looked at weirdest patron saint. There is a patron saint of fireworks. Saint Barbara is the patron saint of fireworks, and there is a patron saint of the internet. So they should have named Catherine after him.
Yeah,
because
they should have named her after whatever the patron saint of people who do all the work is.
Patron saint is probably Martha, isn't it? Who does all the work? Is that Martha or Mary? Whichever one it is. The patron saint of the internet is Saint Isidore of Seville. I'm going to stop now. I've got loads of these, but
Isidore.
Hey, you over there, you can walk. Let's do some sweet.
There's a patron saint of unattractive people. Isn't that subjective, though? It's Saint Drogo, the patron saint of unattractive people.
Maybe he was unattractive. Drogo?
Saint Drogo.
That sounds like a Game of Thrones name.
It does. I might have pronounced it wrong. Anyway, you can mute me at any point.
Exercises we do at the end of every episode. First of all, we have best corpse.
Nice corpse.
Ooh.
Well, I liked Mother Jerome's corpse.
I did. There's something about a dead nun. There's something very creepy, and yeah, I do. And she didn't move her eyes.
Yeah, she did better corpsing, or like not corpsing, actually. You know what I mean?
And they keep a picture of her up on the incident wall in their office.
Yeah.
And it's
So
really
she's like looking
Great.
over their shoulder the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas I don't feel like I saw the dead body of the chaplain for long enough.
I know
Not that I
we
really
did, but
want
it
to.
just wasn't as,
Yeah.
I'm going with Mother Thomas too.
Yeah.
I think the priest had a tougher job as a corpse, but he didn't do it very well. So I'm not going to give it to him.
I
okay,
called her
Mother
Mother
Thomas.
Jerome, didn't I? Why we just can't get these nuns' names right? You're right, Mother Thomas.
We knew who you were talking about. And
So,
then after the credits,
After the credits.
so what happens to all these people? So Matthew's going to prison, right?
I
Catherine
think
is
Duncan
running the
Thomas
Priory
will-
like a boss.
I reckon Catherine's going to run the Priory and actually going to make it really. I reckon she will bring in the tourists and all of that. She'll open it up. She'll bring it into the modern age. She'll pray to
they
St.
got
Isidore of
6,000
Seville.
in the bank.
Huh?
Everyone kind of forgets that yes, the silver was sold, but they got the money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think she'll be wise at, I think she'll throw away her broom and her mop. She'll stop
She'll
bleeding
manage-
into the gravy or whatever and tomatoes.
You think she shows up for open mic night though?
Oh yeah, she's probably she'll have some talent, won't she?
Yeah.
I bet
A
she
guitar,
tap
an
dances or
acoustic
something.
guitar.
Did you see that
I
clip
don't know.
of those
I think Mother
nuns?
Jerome could do some mean rapping.
Oh, absolutely. There was a clip that I sent Em and Helen last week of nuns doing that dance for charity. I'll send it to you. It was very cute, wasn't it?
Good for them.
It was so sweet. These little Irish nuns.
I think Duncan will continue to be a jerk. I don't think he'll grow out of it.
See, I wonder
No.
if his dad going to jail might make him grow out of it.
Well,
But-
I think his mum will become a nun, but then they'll send a new chaplain who's really hot, and then she'll fall for him, and there'll be a big midsummer scandal, and that'll be another episode later on. And maybe Duncan will come back because he was kind of
What do you reckon about the girl he was shagging? She's probably
Tamsin Beckwith. or
scarred
whatever
for
she was
life.
called.
Poor old Tamsin.
Tamsin.
We haven't said much about her. I felt a bit sorry for her. And I thought also he was so sweet to her when he took her for like a whatever it was, hot chocolate.
Oh, that was a good interview. Jones
It
did.
was.
With the new Barnaby, they're really trying to make Jones appear more sergeant-y.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way the boys treat her in the hallway, you just feel so bad for her.
Yeah.
And it's so typical. She's a slag, but he's not, even
Absolutely.
though he
It was so
there
believable.
too,
And
So,
he was
so believable.
Well, and Mrs. Barnaby goes, I don't want to have a problem with bullying in the sixth form. I'm like, have you been to high school?
Have you folks seen a thing called Ripping Yarns?
No.
Oh my God, you would
Palin.
love. Emma, have you seen Ripping Yarns? You must have
Yeah.
done, yeah.
Not for
So
a while.
Michael Palin and Terry Jones post Monty Python, and there's a whole episode that's set in a big private school that's meant to be like Eton or Harrow, that type of school. And the school employs a bully because the middle class parents send their kids there with the expectation that the kids will be bullied and it'll make them into men. And it is such a brilliant, and there's this amazing line about how you can never escape from this school. And what the line is, one boy once got 11 miles before he was tracked down and brought back by the school leopard. And it's just the most brilliant.
I have seen that. I remember it now.
So
Yes.
good. I love
They have a
Ripping
high quality
Yarns.
bully.
Yeah,
It's one of the better
They
schools.
interview for the bullies, and it's just
Yes.
brilliant. I love it as a concept.
Also, I didn't mention Sykesy the dog, who I love him because he was famous over here. Well, I'm sure you guys know this, but he was famous over here, and everyone thought his name was Harvey because he was in an advert for how good adverts are.
I love those commercials.
When
They're so
Psych
cute.
was introduced, we talk about those commercials. Unfortunately, the lower men thought his name was Sexy, and had a whole rant about that.
That puts the poor dog in a whole different light.
Silly. Also, Polly,
Sexy, get back here.
Polly, do you think Sykes is a human name for a dog or not? Because
borderline. No, I don't think it is. I was, it's a bit like Bill Sykes. Is it named after Bill Sykes or Eric Sykes? Which Sykes?
I think Bill Sykes.
Probably Bill Sykes more than Eric Sykes.
Have we mentioned that we have a dog?
No.
So we have a dog whose name is Fanny.
Excellent.
That was my great grandma's name, and she was a wrestler.
Your great grandma was awesome.
Well, our dog is an English bulldog, so
it
suits
God.
her.
I'll have to send you a picture of my great grandma. I'm gonna look.
She sounds epic.
She's been
We'll send
reincarnated
you a
as your
picture of
dog.
Fanny. Fanny's the reason why when we record, usually we record. I'm in the same room with Sarah, but because we're on Zoom, we're doing this. We usually have to shut the door to the office room because Fanny's snoring is so loud that she can come across on the...
She's that loud.
Oh.
I did, on a side note, I looked into crimes committed while dressed as a nun.
Yeah, the best side note.
Just the year before last, there were 2 women in Arizona who dressed up as nuns, and they had Bibles that were hollowed out and full of fentanyl.
Excuse me.
They were dealing drugs dressed as nuns.
That's amazing. But again, no one's going to, you could keep so many drugs under your habit. No one's ever going to say, can I have
Oh
a
my
riddle
gosh,
under your
all the
habit?
things you could hide.
You got to
Anything.
think Dante's somewhere in the afterlife going, I did not think of that one.
But you would also have kind of a limited range, right? You can only deal your drugs somewhere near an actual convent where there are actual nuns that get seen on occasion.
Yeah, because otherwise they think, well, nun just keeps coming 20 miles away from the nearest convent. What's she doing here?
Yeah, that's kind of suspicious.
Yeah.
But here in Bloomington, we have a large Buddhist monastery, but I haven't seen any nuns. So you'd have to dress up as a Buddhist monk. So we were going to hide.
The number of weird things about Bloomington. The Dalai Lama's brother
lives here. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So when the Dalai Lama comes to the United States, he goes to Washington, D.C. because he's a head of state, and then he comes to Bloomington.
How cool.
Longer. So
it's an odd little place. Do we have anything else?
I want to know. I want to know what the best crime committed by a nun was, or was that the best one? Sorry.
That was the most
Mark.
recent one. There were 2 girls in Pennsylvania who tried to rob a bank dressed as nuns, but they bottled out when the cashier said, "You're not a nun."
Doesn't Barnaby say anyone can buy a nun's habit? And have I just invented this? No, he did say that, didn't he? Anyone
yeah, Jones says it. So that's the thing in the episode where they're like, "Oh, that's the missing piece.
That's the epiphany. The aha!
He was in Africa at the same time she was."
Yes. You can buy a nun costume, so obviously it's him.
Yeah. I think at that point I'd written down, why is Barnaby being so obtuse? I have no idea what's happening.
He's just realized that it was actually Mother Julian who sold the silver.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Because it could have been any nun. They all look alike.
They look alike, and their names begin with J.
Yeah.
And to finish off after the episode, Peter DeWinter cleans up because that's 60K of 17th century silver going to the museum in the United States is not going for 60K.
Yeah.
And he owns it outright. He bought it fair and square.
Oh, yes.
Yep. So he gets to keep it.
Maybe we should antiques trade.
Mark, did you recognize Mother Julian from the prior Midsomer she was in?
What episode was she in?
She's in Written in Blood. She plays Amy Lydiard.
Oh, that's right. She plays the
mousy woman whose sister-in-law is the killer.
Yeah.
She's like psycho killer.
Anna Massey plays a fantastic killer in that episode.
Did they recycle actors in Midsomer the way that they...
Yes.
I suppose there are so many episodes of Midsomer now, though.
But they do that in Lovejoy, and there aren't even that. Well, normally because they're married to Ian McShane, or she was married to it. She played.
She's in it like 3 times.
She played 3 characters in Lovejoy.
Yeah, we don't really. You just don't worry about it when you see somebody who's familiar in Midsomer. You just think they're somebody new.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Barnaby. New Barnaby appears in an episode in like the third season as a kind of skeezy character.
A Randy Gardner who sells hooch to teenagers. Surprise, I'm actually Barnaby. He flirts with Joyce.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then he shows up as Barnaby in a episode from the previous season
Where they go to Brighton together.
Just to sort of situate him as they're related, and now he can
John
just
Nettles was
take
leaving.
his job, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's still a Barnaby. He's just a different Barnaby.
Yeah.
Because if you have a job and a cousin, you can just switch jobs.
You just hand it off to them.
You wouldn't have to change your staff card. Well, you would, because you need to change your picture, wouldn't you?
Just cross out the first name and put in the new one.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You guys are so fun to hang out with.
Oh, bless you. I talk far too much. I suddenly thought I need to shut up. I've got too much nun knowledge.
Oh no! Let me just close out the show, and then we can chit chat for a little while. So, you can find us on Midsomer Maniacs on Twitter, Instagram, and email. We also post on the Facebook groups for Midsomer and Acorn and the subreddit, and anywhere else we find Maniacs. Remember, we're trying to get 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, so we can get that new community page. So, get your children to like, subscribe, and hit the bell.
And where can they find Lovejoy actually?
Where can they find Lovejoy actually?
You can find us online on Twitter, where Polly is way better at doing the Twitter than I am on Instagram. But on both places, we are at Lovejoy APod. And you can just search Lovejoy actually wherever you get your podcasts, and you should find us and our friend Helen, and we discuss an episode of Lovejoy every other week.
And you can vote for us. You can vote for us in the British Podcasting Awards.
We did.
Yes.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
I should have written down the URL to read out, but I haven't. So just Google British
I think it's
Podcast
just
Award.
BritishPodcastingAwards.com.
We'll put a link in the show
Show
description.
notes.
Thank you.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Our next episode is 89. Is it 89?
Yep.
89. Season 14, episode 88. A rare bird. More bird watchers.
Twitchers, bird watchers, they get all uptight about it.
Bye, Maniacs.
Bye, Maniacs.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
Found some very interesting things. We found a credit card receipt with the number on it from
Oh my God.
a person who was in the crew.
They used it as a prop.
That's amazing.
They used it as a prop. And we've also seen a sign that says, "This set is closed. Don't touch anything."
That's amazing.
They
Yeah.
left that out.
They forgot to take it off the set before they started shooting.
Whoops.